Most time, just wanted to give thanks for protecting not just myself, but so many other people out there all these years. All this time, a lot of the stuff that I went through growing up, I ended up thinking that I was suffering when I actually had absolutely no idea of the pain that people were all going through during that time. I had absolutely no idea. Many of us were in times of our own sin, times of our own pettiness at times, even in times of our own selfishness, and we have absolutely no idea of the reality of things that were happening. And yet, despite all of that, you still stood there to protect all of us as best as you could, to the greatest of your abilities. Even in our own blindness, you were still there to protect us all, just like you are now. We are in some really dark times right now. I plan on doing the best I can to the greatest of whatever abilities, as far as I possibly can, to inform and help as many people out as possible. It's not going to be an easy task. And of course, the Dark Followers are not going to make that any easier for me, or any easier for as much as any easier for anybody else for that matter. They're probably going to try to intervene, probably try to stop me in some kind of way. Maybe try to set a situation up. Who knows? But it's not going to stop me from trying. It's not going to stop me from trying to protect every single target individual out there as best as I can. So it's some way to basically ease their pain. Anything. Even if it involves me putting myself at risk. It's not an easy thing, but you know something. There are people out there who have families. I intentionally didn't settle down to have a family because I believe that in some odd way you were able to warn me ahead of time to not settle down just because of how cruel this world is. You knew that there would be no way I would have ever been able to survive in a world like this as long as I have if I did actually had a family. There's just absolutely no way. It would never have happened. There have been some females in the past that did approach me that probably would have worked out, but it was that same thing that I had great fear of. Not of the woman herself, but just at the idea of having a family out in the world like this. I don't know what it is, but it's just something that I had to immediately reject. I had to immediately cast away. It was no fault of the female. It was just it was just the circumstances of the situation and the way that this world was. I couldn't explain it at the time. I couldn't. There's no way I would have even known. I've only known such a handful of things that was happening. I didn't know that politicians were as corrupt as they are. I knew that there was corruption. I'm on both sides in politics. Hence why I never voted in the first place. I never really believed in a system that creates problems and then creates a solution. If anything, if only its solutions would be there to basically just hone itself. And it wouldn't be able to be for anybody else. That's just how it's always been. And it's still no different. Pharmaceutical companies are no different. Doctors are portraying patients by the dozens. Nurses are no different. And they only have just such a handful of doctors and nurses who are basically trying to do the right thing and speaking out, only for them to get their license stripped away, only for them to literally get their livelihood stripped away by people who just want to just kill for money. Same thing goes for any good cop. A good cop basically tries to defend an innocent civilian who's being wrongfully scrutinized by an officer or a fellow officer. who just apparently has been doing this out of in a lot of people may not realize this, but a lot of these cops, these crooked cops, tend to get specific orders to engage with certain people literally before they even do anything. Not to mention, this has also been proven when it came to their equipment that was latched onto their cars, just immediately just tagging down people's license plates just by them driving down the street. People absolutely not a lot of people know how crooked the police force has really become. When they see us targeting individuals, basically try to cry out for help. What do? They're no different than any of the rest. They just either call us schizophrenic, call us delusional, laugh at us in our face, and it's no different than any of the other people who are also involved. These demons basically laugh at the torture that basically gets portrayed onto us. They laugh in the shadows as well as in front of us while we go through torment every day. While so much pain, so many people have felt so much pain. So many people have been hurt so badly. We've lost so many loved ones in these dark times. We've lost so many. I'm not the best person out there in the world, and I would never ever claim to be. But I at least want to do as best as I can to help as many as possible, if at all possible. And I know that a lot of other TIs feel the same way. They also want to do the best they can to help many other people. I want to definitely dismantle and destroy this organization that does this to people, because there's no way that anybody would be able to coexist, not even people who aren't even aware. There's no way people can coexist with an organization like that. It's just not possible. It's not possible at all. All this time, I'm thinking this was always the land of the free, but in reality, it was always just the land of the enslaved. And it was only just there to just to let you think how much of free you really are. But in reality, they made it a lot more easier just for to basically have people ensnared and enslaved. It was nothing more than a damn scam, and a lot of people fell for it. We have scientists of which our government is allowing to experiment on their own citizens of the country. The same thing goes for every other country out there too. It's like the damn plantation all over again, except, and a lot of people may not be aware of this, but there's no such thing as a one race slave. There was many people who were enslaved of many different races. And that's the downright truth. The whole thing of history has been screwed around with to basically blind people from the truth, as of which they have done with most of all the truths that reside in this realm. Every day that passes by, we're getting closer and closer to where both the gates of heaven, both the gates of hell are opening up. The tide is definitely turning, and people really need to find their way. They really do. It's no easy task, I know, because I've been through the struggle. I've been through the pain, and I've been through all of it. And it doesn't make it any easier when your mind is being manipulated, even when you're not even aware of it. Because the only way you even be able to truly defend yourself from it is when you become aware of it. I know not I can only imagine the pain that my family is going through. I can only imagine the pain of what everybody else's family is going through. The blind have been dumbed down so badly. And even now, they're still being dumbed down and programmed, either from the local street lights, from the television systems that basically put subliminal messaging and flashing programming that you can't even see by the naked eye, that flashes by the millisecond to where you won't even be able to pick it up. Or this whole conditioning thing of confusion. There's so much out there that has just been so cruel to so many people. But there's no way that evil will be allowed to ever over exceed good. That evil will be expunged either in this time or the next. We have been through so much. I've known ever since I was very young about certain types of people, and that people hid behind masks. I don't know when, but at some point I threw and basically shattered the mask that was handed to me. And I believe this happened when I actually started to find out what peer pressure was. In fact, it didn't really take me very long to realize what it was. It really just didn't. I just knew. For a time, I did fall for the ruse, not realizing what it was. But as I started to grow older, I started to actually turn with more realization to what it really was. I started to understand why so many people were actually angered, why they were to the point of when they were these were the same people who listened to certain types of music. And it was just it wasn't the individual's fault. It was the conditioning of the music, and it would just condition to think that was just a type of stuff to be okay. And I speak, of course, of music that basically talks trash to the listener. It does nothing but basically talk negative to the listener, boost the negativity of that person, which a lot of people aren't aware of. They use lyrics such as you this and you that a lot, but a lot of people don't realize that in reality, the whole thing is to get you enticed to listening to a music track to do what? That promotes that basically boosts negativity towards you to lower your spiritual vibration. A lot of people don't know this. I actually started to see this quite a long time ago. Every music CD I had at the time, I completely destroyed because I felt betrayed and I felt lied to. These people were basically just being paid off just to mock either their own people, not even just their own people, but the entire population. And they knew what they were doing, and yet they never did change their ways. They never did, and they don't even feel any shred of guilt. At the same time, though, as I started to grow accustomed to things and I started to realize certain things, I started to come to the understanding that there were some of them that did want to just break free from it, but they were being controlled. They were being mind controlled and mind manipulated. One particular singer within the rap industry, she exposed this truth when she actually uploaded a video that basically showed her venting. And she was basically complaining about how a lot of the people she were around were completely fake. And it was just all bullshit. Only for some strange guy to basically come over from the side out of nowhere, literally just telling her that, well, that sounds like career-ending talk. The fact that they would use manipulation on these people shows that they have gotten themselves so twisted up into the system that it's not easy. It's not an easy task for them to get out, and it's become very clear what happens to these people when they basically completely reject the system. You can look at Kanye West's situation. You can look at Cat Williams' situation, a fellow Ti, even if he's not aware. You can look at Dave Chappelle's situation. You can look at many of these people's situation and see that the media immediately started to turn on them. And people have to wonder, why is it that the media, think about like the same thing that the media did. They immediately turn on these people, right? But they are so fixated on what's happening with them that they don't basically ever, and I do mean this, they never, ever, ever go after the beast system that hired them. And I always have to wonder why. Why do they never go after the music producers? Why do they never go after the people who basically run the entire music industry? The people you don't see. Why is that? Oh, that's right. The whole event was scripted. It was a setup, and it was a situation to where, in a minute, it was basically nothing more than a setup from the get-go. They force these people into certain things, and then when it gets to the time to where they don't want to basically continue this bullshit which they have been promoting, people will just people will eat the shit up that they will bring out there. And that's how it is. Little do they know people are being mind controlled. Little do they know people are being set up by the day. Little do they know that these are the same people who would even go as far as to even putting their own kids in harm's way, who puts these different types of celebrities and all these other people up to this. Now, at the same time, there are celebrities out there that are completely compliant in what's going on. But the truth is, a lot of people are being mind manipulated today. And that's the growing issue that we have. Most time, I pray that someday soon you will put a stop to all of this. Put a stop to all of the pain. Put a stop to all of the misery. Put a stop to all of the sadness. And put a complete stop to all of this corruption that has been causing it. All of this hatefulness that has been plaguing this world for so long. It literally feels like hell on earth right now. And it probably is. This is why I believe that they desperately try to lower a person's spiritual vibration. They do this as a means to lower a person, such as lowering them down to a certain level. And if a person was to take that analogy and basically look at that along in it, well, basically look at that and compare that to altitude and basically rising and lowering from height to well, you know what I'm getting at. If a person was to analyze that along with that, then they would see that if you apply the thing that, hell on earth, you would see that they're basically lowering your spiritual vibration as a desperate attempt to lower you to hell, while raising your spiritual vibration is what heightens you to heaven. So, the way I see it, whenever these demonically influenced or possibly mind manipulated individuals go out of their way to basically do anything negative, it's just a way for them to basically try to lower me to hell, and I'm rejecting every bit of it. I refuse to hate. I refuse to allow myself to be converted into a negative state. I'm done hating. I'm done being mad. The only thing I feel for if anything at all, for people like that at this point is pity. I pity them because I know the punishment that they're going to have to pay for all of what they have done to so many people. And even while they're being warned, they still go out and do what they do. They never stop. They never stop. And then it starts to become quite obvious as to why they never stop. It's because it's just something that's in some of these people's nature. Some people were just naturally like this. But at the same time, despite this, they still had a choice. But these are just the circumstances that basically just let them into that. Most of us really are just victims of circumstances, of the things we've been exposed to in life, the things we've been conditioned to in life, of the things that we basically have gone through in so many times. It's not easy, but many target individuals may not have been told this, but every day that you wake up, every day that you got the courage to get the hell up and do what you do, that shows that you are genuinely strong. These whistleblowers that do what they do, you are genuinely strong. The truthers, all of you are genuinely strong. Every single one of you. It's not easy to basically get up there and be able to speak the truth, especially with how much people have been threatened with, all the death and destruction that has plagued this world for so long. But despite that, evil will not triumph. The one thing I will never ever fear is a person's threats. One of the many other things I will never ever fear is death, because technically death is not to be feared. Death technically is a release from the pain. The only time that death becomes a sin to the person who loses that life, well, technically, let me put it in this perspective for people to understand. Technically, when you're born, you age, right? And you know people die by age. So technically, by you dying by age, you're not necessarily living. Not if you're dying. No. The real life exists beyond this life. Only then is when you're truly living. The life we live now is nothing more than it's basically nothing more than a trial that we all have been given. There's two different sides to basically choose. Life really is nothing more than a trial and error. You're gonna end up having times where you find yourself being in a hateful position. You're gonna find yourself being in a loving position, a sadful position. So many different things so many different feelings you will have and experience through this life. So many ways, so many. And it gets it gets worse. It gets so much worse. You got the devil out there just changing things, confusing people. And even now, as I'm certain most of you have all noticed already, the devil seeks to do that at the same thing, even in front of everybody. Changing Bible scriptures, tampering with the teachings, tampering with the Word of God, all of that. However, it will not. The devil is not gonna succeed. The only thing is that, well, have to do our best to basically rise above this madness. But when it's our own time to basically move on. We have to make so I say to all of you, don't fear death. Don't fear the threats that they lash out at you. Don't fear them no matter what they do. Because the reason why they want you to fear them is because, well, when people are in a state of fear, they tend to be more controlled. Don't ever fear them, for they are nothing to be afraid of. They do some of the most heinous of crimes you can even imagine. But they are not to be feared. Why do you think they put so much effort into being feared in the first place? It's because they're desperate to be feared. They're desperate for control. They manipulate, they do things, they change things, they steal things, they hurt things, they do so many, just to have control. You cannot allow them to ever control you, ever. Once you're awake, you have to stay awake. Rise through the struggle. And claim your right to pass through those heavenly gates. I pray that I pray for everyone's safety, everyone's protection, as well as my own, that we all will rise above this. Stay safe, stay strong, everybody. Shalom.